Hello and welcome to the live stream. This is actually technically the first live stream, not technically the first video, but the first live stream from my new studio space. It's still not quite finished. Still a bit more to do cosmetically and just adding a bit more lighting and things like that. Obviously got my main lights in, which is the most important one, and got my little Nanlite pavo tubes in the background illuminating the wall. Actually got a whole unit to go along the wall as well. Anyway, before I get into all of that, hello and welcome. If you've got any questions about the studio at all, then feel free to drop them into the chat. I posted a couple of videos recently. One was a video sort of walkthrough of the completely empty building. So just to give a bit of context, recently moved house. And so I've now got a separate building for the studio space. And actually there's technically going to be 3 studios. So this one that I'm in right now is my sort of primary working space. So I've got my my desk over here, and it's a pretty similar setup to the setup that I had before in terms of the sort of orientation. So having my sort of main computer, I've got my teleprompter there that I'm looking at my output in, my sort of AV center unit over here with my Rodecaster, the Rodecaster video, and also a monitor there, which has got all of my Ecamm stuff on, and then my main monitor over on this side. And I guess technically there's also another monitor on the side. I don't know quite why I keep saying technically, but anyway, there's another monitor over on the other side over there, which is a vertical monitor. So that's this is kind of like my main working space, my main working studio. Is where I'm going to be making all of the tutorial content that I do, all of my regular just Zoom calls and things like that, my main working space. But then downstairs there is another studio space, and that's what I'm calling the main stage. So what I'm building out in there is effectively a full stage with multiple cameras and also tracking cameras. So I'll be able to move around in that space. And the idea of that is to simulate, an actual stage, so that when I'm delivering presentations and content from in there, it's going to be a bit more dynamic than just these sort of talking heads. So when I'm presenting at different workshops, at different events, so I present at different summits and things like that, then rather than just being static, it can be a little bit more dynamic. And I've got some interesting ideas for things that I can do in there in terms of, having, for example, a video wall or having a video screen that I can bring up guests or whatever. If we are discussing things, or if there's Q&As or whatever, then they can just appear on an individual screen that I'll be able to walk over to, and it will be able to track me as I do that. A bit like in here. I mean, this is actually just my Osmo Pocket, but I can sort of move around here and it's going to follow me around. Well, obviously I'm just rolling around on my chair at the moment, but if I was on like a stage and was able to walk, then I'd be able to walk over to different areas. I'm all about the idea of immersive presentations when I talk about that in terms of Keynote, where it is a case of, bringing on the information on the screen only as and when you need it, rather than just being, a little window in the corner and then having a big slide deck off to the side. Well, sometimes all you need is a title along the bottom, or you just need some bullet points coming in on the screen, or maybe you want to bring a guest onto into the scene as well. So with Ecamm, I can just go over a scene like this and pull somebody in from Zoom. Sorry about that, somebody in the backstage. So I can just easily bring in a guest in that way. Well, if you've got the freedom to move around on a stage, then when you're talking about presentations, you can actually incorporate them on the stage with you, in terms of having I'm going to have a vertical monitor, a horizontal monitor, and some other screens going on there. So you can literally just sort of walk over to the content as you're talking about it, walk back, walk over to the other side when you want to address somebody on one of those scenes. On one of the screens rather. So that's what's going on downstairs. I will be building that one probably out in August. So we're into July at the moment. Got a very busy July coming up. Talk more about that later. But then in August is when I'm going to be building out that space downstairs. So I'll probably do a lot more documenting of that. I didn't really do a huge amount of documenting of this. I did a video tour of it empty, did a video tour of it built out, but with no tech in it. And then here I am now just doing this video. Well, the main stage downstairs is going to be a little bit different to my this studio setup and my original studio setup. So I'll probably do a little bit more explanation about that and sharing progress as we go along. There is then actually another studio space, or another room at least, which is going to effectively be a workshop. And looking to get into 3D printing, I've kind of held off on it for a while because I know that I'll go down rabbit holes with it, and I could easily get derailed from what I'm doing, because I'm a maker at heart. I like making physical things, you know, with my background in engineering. So it would be easy for me to get derailed. It's a bit like I never install games on my iPad because I know that I know that I can get addicted to those sorts of things. And it's kind of the same with making things. But now I've got some real tangible products that I want to prototype and work on. And so, yeah, we'll be setting up a workshop in there for 3D printing, and we'll likely also then set up a sort of recording space in there to be able to show that kind of thing that I'm doing in there as well. So this is one building, but with 3 separate studios in it, and this is the first. So yeah, this is the point of today, is just to talk through a little bit what I've done so far and what is still to do. So if you have got any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Got a few people backstage, and also DJ Rob, great to see you, my friend. And yeah, I should be looking to you for inspiration, because I know you've made some awesome studio spaces. And anybody who hasn't seen them, go and just do a search for DJ Rob in the Ecamm community, and you'll see lots of little tours and walkthroughs and some really, really stunning studio spaces that you've built. So yeah, great to see you, and thanks for stopping by. So in terms of the build out of this space, perhaps I can just switch over to this camera, and I'll give you a bit more of a tour and an insight into you know, what I've got planned. So perhaps I can also just try this and switch over to a different mic. Let's see how this works. So now this is the Rode Interview Pro, and so I'll see what the lighting's like, but basically you can see that it's a little bit empty at the back there. That sofa will be moved out. It's just in there temporarily because there's a load of mess in the other room. I've got these acoustic panels around the wall. If I can turn it in the right direction, you'll see that those grey panels sort of just behind me, just over to the right of my head there, or the left of my head, those are the same acoustic panels that I used in my old studio, and the purpose of those is to just help with the well, the acoustics. They stop the reverberation of sound, and they're basically sort of acoustic foam. I should probably look at this camera, shouldn't I? 2 inches thick, and then they're sort of stood off from the wall as well. But what I've also done is I also panelled the entire wall behind me in this other sort of black foam panelling as well. Sometimes you'll see things advertised as, you know, acoustic foam, and it's just a few millimeters thick, you know, 1/4 of an inch or whatever, stuck onto the wall. That's basically what that black stuff is over there, and it doesn't do as good a job as having, you know, proper acoustic foam, acoustic panels like that, but certainly it still helps with you know, dampening the sound down. But part of the reason why I wanted to do that as well was this does actually hide the door, so the door is hidden in there, and so yeah, that's part of the reason for that, because what I wanted this room to be is basically wherever I am in it, you can't necessarily see where the doors, where the windows are, and it's all about controlling light. It's about controlling sound as well. So when I've got rid of the sofa, then I'll be using this sort of space behind me against that wall for, you know, recording some other content that's just got a bit of a look and a different look and feel to it. It's about sort of changing up the way things look. There is also notably no windows in here, and in case you missed the tour that I did in a video, basically what I did was there is a window which is behind that acoustic panel over there, just sort of behind my head. There's another window which you wouldn't be able to see anyway, which is behind this light, but those have both been blocked off with acoustic panels. But then actually behind this shelving unit and this sort of wooden fascia over here is a huge big sliding door that goes out onto a balcony. Well, I do still want to have some natural light when I'm not streaming or recording, but I did want to be able to completely shut it off when it wasn't being, you know, when I was recording. So what I did was, fortunately, there was a sort of security grille in the over the front of the window. So what I did was I just mounted all this paneling onto that, and in actual fact, I can open that up, and there we've got some natural light. So when I'm not doing anything in terms of recording or streaming, then I can always open that up and get a bit of a view out there and get some natural light. Now, this shelving unit over here, is basically then acting as the sort of pocket that slides into. So that is just a freestanding shelving unit. But what I did was I got this sort of fascia that I could stick onto the front of it, or the back of it rather, to give that sort of effect. But it acts as a sort of backing to it that provides a sort of pocket for that to slide into behind. And as you can see, it doesn't quite go up to the ceiling. I wanted access behind it to put some cabling and stuff like that if I ever needed to run anything behind there. So it doesn't quite go up to the ceiling. But what it means is I've got another camera which is just over behind me. This has got the Elgato prompter on the front of it. It is the Sony ZV-1 in actual fact, that camera. And what that means is if I do switch over to that camera now, what we can do is just bring this up like this. If I choose the right camera over here, this is the Sony ZV-1, and what I can do is I can turn this way, and then when I sort of zoom in a little bit and I've got my lighting sorted out a bit better, then this just gives a completely different look to the content. But I can sort of move this camera around. I can also adjust it. It's on a height adjustable stand, so I can also just put that up if I want to do some sort of standing content and do vertical content from that as well. So just coming back over to this camera for a second. Let's come back over here. As you can see, I've got those acoustic panels on the back wall, and those are still the same acoustic panels that I was using previously, but I did actually just add a sort of patterned fiberboard onto the front and then sprayed it gold in actual fact. I've got some more lighting to add into the back, so it won't be quite so dramatic at the moment. There's some weird shadows being cast because I've only got those two individual lights just down at the bottom, so that's kind of illuminating everything in a kind of odd way. Yeah, there is a unit to go across the back. The reason why I'm laughing is because Rich in the backstage mentioned that it kind of got a bit of a Asian restaurant vibe going on, so yeah, maybe I might put a full menu up on the back wall. Anyway, so yeah, still got that. I've got a unit to come in there that is on order, and just going to add a little bit of interest onto the back wall, sort of changing the vibe up compared to my previous studio, which was obviously just completely full of sort of all tech and things like that on the back wall. So I am going to have some sort of tech and gear and things like that on these shelves, so that when I'm using that other camera angle over here, wherever it was, this one, no, not this one, this one, then yeah, you'll see all the the tech on the back wall. So it's just to give a couple of different approaches to the content and a couple of different viewpoints of the content I'm making, giving a bit of a different vibe. Yeah, still more lighting to add into this space as well. Obviously, as I say, I've got the main lighting done. But just to show you what this looks like, it is exactly the same lighting as I was using before. So I've got the Forza 60s, the two Nanlite Forza 60s. That's my key light over there, my fill light. Those are all mounted to the wall. What I did this time as well was I also mounted my camera just behind me, the teleprompter and camera. That is also mounted on a bracket to the wall, because in my old studio, although the sort of configuration was pretty much the same as this, the camera was sitting on a tripod, and what it meant was it was an absolute nightmare to ever get behind the monitor to do anything behind there, if I needed to change any connections or connect any new stuff or whatever. Whereas now the whole sort of desk is basically, the back of the desk is kind of 2 foot off the wall, and then the camera is all mounted to the wall, as are the lights. So what that means is it's easy for me to sort of get behind there to service it, install anything new. And then I've also got a sort of shelf sitting behind there that's got all of my UPS power supplies, uninterrupted power supplies, and all the cabling's easily accessible. At the moment, I've just done a sort of loose connection of everything, because until I've got everything all in, I don't want to start tidying all the cables up and then realize there's something else I've got to add in. Still in the process of changing things around. The current setup at the moment is I'm using the laptop as one of my screens, so you can see that down there. Whereas I'm just noticing Richard's comment. Yeah, new chair with wheels. In my old studio, I was basically just using a static dining chair, which is probably why I was completely static in most of my videos. but now I've got a little bit more freedom to spin and move around. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we'll see. Hopefully you're not getting seasick. But yeah, using the MacBook there as one of the screens, what I'm actually going to do is get a dedicated screen in there and probably a slightly larger screen. The way that this is all sort of set up at the moment, I've left a bit more space for a larger screen in there, whereas before everything was all sort of squished together with no gaps between them. And part of the reason for that is that I'm going to be switching out this computer in here, likely for a Mac Studio. Now, Mac Studios are probably going to be upgraded or updated, I should say, in a couple of months. So at the moment, they've got the M3 Max, but they don't have the M4. Or they have the M4, but not the M4 Max. I can't remember exactly. My mind is blanking on that at the moment. But yeah, we'll likely switch the computer out for that. So in the meantime, I will add in a different monitor over there. I'm also considering changing the monitor that I've got behind me. There we go, using these 360 capability of my chair. You can see I've got a vertical monitor there, which is, I call that my sort of productivity monitor or communications monitor. It's basically when I'm kind of working at my main monitor here, which is a 43-inch Philips, then normally that side monitor is where I'm going to have my email, calendar, WhatsApp for communicating with my VAs and so on. So that's usually what that is for. But what I might well do is add a sort of wider, so same height, but just a wider monitor over there, because I do intend to be actually recording quite a lot more using this camera over on the side here. So having the sort of wider monitor on that side is going to mean that I can, just have more visible, like maybe duplicate the Ecamm controls and so on, just off to the right-hand side of this monitor. So it may well end up being a sort of complete wraparound of screens, but only if they are serving a purpose. And as I say, that's what that extra sort of wide monitor there might be. There's a bit of a gap here between this fascia, and that's because what I'm also going to be doing is actually adding in some carpet. So at the moment, you can see from the shininess, this is a tiled floor, so I'm going to put some carpet down. You may think, well, wasn't it a bit stupid to put all the gear in before putting the carpet down? But actually, I wanted to understand, where everything was going to be. And if you look behind the desk, you'll see that it is still just a mess of cables. So although I've got everything in and sort of technically wired in, I'm still able to sort of get in and just put the carpet down underneath it all and understand where stuff's going to be. I may well run things, along underneath the carpet or something like that. So, but in any case, that is part of the reason for that gap, because I want to allow for the carpet. But then after that, I'm going to have a sort of separate low shelf and unit down here that's going to have like power outlets and things like that, so that I can put gear and equipment and power it all from this as well. So that's just something else that is still to do. A few other little minor cosmetic things to do as well, like trim on the desk. By the way, the desk itself, you can see the shape of the desk there, and if you look on the edge of that sort of shelving unit down here, there's basically just a couple of strips of timber that are the legs of that end at the moment, and that's because this is all basically just based on my old desk. I just kind of created a new tabletop for it. So it used to be about, I think, 80 centimeters by 180 or something like that. But I wanted this wraparound desk because you can see the sort of configuration that I have. My monitor is kind of off to an angle from my camera, and so it means that when I'm sitting on my camera, I'm kind of sitting here, but then when I go to my computer to sort of actually work, then I'm sort of sitting off at another angle. So this desk shape just works a lot better, because it works for whether I'm actually sitting more at the computer or more in front of the camera. And then we've got that shape, the space over on this side as well behind it. You can see I haven't quite added all the edge trim on it. So I just built the new desktop and then added some teak veneer and varnished it. So yeah, still not quite finished, but it's just nice to have a sort of custom desk that is going to work for whatever I happen to be doing at the time. The other one was always kind of a little bit awkward the way it was set up. So and it was only after a year and 2 years or 3 years of using it that yeah, I thought it's going to be nice if something just actually fits for exactly how I'm using things. So yeah, that's where I am at the moment with it. All the monitors, by the way, one question I always get asked is about monitors and how I'm driving so many monitors from a MacBook Pro, which technically I think I can only plug in 2 external monitors. So it all comes down to using a dock that is capable of driving those, and actually the dock is just underneath this. Whoops, sorry about this. The dock is just underneath this little desk shelf down here, and it is a Wavelink dock. And what you want to look for is a dock that just has display link technology. So it will say display link on the actual device itself, and so that little dock down there can power up to an additional 4 monitors. So I have actually got one plugged directly into the laptop, actually using the HDMI out of the laptop. But then what we've got is the one there and 2, the third one, and then the 4th one over there, and then also technically the Elgato prompter is another one over there as well. So that's the thing to do. Now, when I switch over to the studio, technically I won't need that because that can drive all of these monitors, and display link is fine. It does allow you to drive these extra monitors. You just need to have the display link software installed on your computer. And then, as I say, they just show up as regular monitors then. But it's a question I get asked all the time is how am I actually powering all of these? So that is a little overview of the studio and where we are at the moment. And if I can just plug my monitors back in for a second. There we go. And let me just switch back over to this mic. And then I will come over and say hi to some folks in the chat as well. Where are we up to? Hey, Bernhard, great to see you here. Thank you very much. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, the chair with wheels, you won't be able to stop me now. Doc always used to talk about how Doc Rock always used to talk about how I was basically, always appeared motionless in my videos, and there were 2 reasons. Firstly, I was firmly planted to the ground because I was on just a solid hardwood dining table. The other thing was at the beginning when I was doing everything green screen. One of the best ways to get better effect with green screen is, first of all, number 1, the bald head, but second of all, stay as still as possible so that you don't get all the artifacting as you're sort of flailing your arms around or whatever. So that's why I always used to appear pretty motionless on screen. So now I've just got to stop myself from spinning around. Now I've got the freedom. Hey James, great to see you here. Glad you like it as well. Doug, great to see you too as well. Glad you like the behind the scenes. It's funny actually, I posted the video the other day, when was it, Friday, of the studio without any things in, because so often you get studio tours and like at the moment there's lots of things that are in darkness, you can't really see how things are set up. But yeah, I thought I'd just share that sort of behind the scenes of it with no tech in whatsoever, so you could see how it was all put together before everything just sort of fades into the deep dark corners of it all. So I hope you got to see that one as well. Hey Jill, great to see you here as well. Fantastic to have you here, the new Ecamm community manager, and a fantastic job you're doing too. And so yeah, the new desk is actually something that's really it makes a difference, because I did always find before that although technically I had enough space, it's funny, like when you're finding yourself just it not being as efficient as it could be. This has made a huge difference already. So I've only been in here for like a couple of days, so I kind of moved in my stuff on where are we now? It's Wednesday morning, so I guess Sunday was when I started actually being a little bit more productive in here. So hopefully I'm looking forward to getting back to a creative flow, because quite honestly, the past what is it now? I guess 2 months almost since we moved house has just felt like I've not been quite in my my regular flow of things as I used to be, just because I wasn't in my usual space, or in a space that I was getting settled into. So the last few streams that you will have seen were back to my old green screen, and that was in the kids' playroom in the house. But now, yes, firmly back here, and hopefully we'll get back to being a little bit more productive. So a couple of people have asked asked, like, what am I doing differently in this studio compared to the last studio, and, like, you know, what is it that that sort of changed from last time? Well, quite honestly, apart from all of the sort of cosmetic things, obviously, and the you know, the decoration at the end of the day, really the setup has stayed the same. And I think it's worth mentioning this, that sometimes when you're starting out with you know, trying to set up a studio space, trying to get better at video, it's very easy to you know, feel like it's a sort of never-ending cycle. We always talk about the, you know, the gear acquisition syndrome, this thing of there always being one more thing to buy. But really, you don't necessarily, well, first of all, you definitely don't need all of the stuff that I've got in here just to, you know, look better and sound better on camera. So just investing in a decent camera, a decent microphone, and being conscious about the way that you are setting up your lighting is going to make a huge difference. And everything else after that, it's really you know, just nice to have. You know, the Rodecaster, the you know, the multiple cameras. You don't need to have all of these different camera angles. But it's easy to look at what other people are doing and feel like, you know, you've got to have that whole setup built out from the beginning. But really, when I started making my videos on YouTube 4.5 years ago, whatever it was, 4 years ago, I started with a 10-year-old Canon camera. I did invest in a microphone, not actually this one. It was a Shure MV7, which is pretty comparable, I would say, to this one, the Rode PodMic USB. But then, and then I just got a couple of, you know, relatively decent lights. They actually weren't any brand name in particular. I think they were the equivalent of $50 for a pair. But what they did was they gave me better light than just the natural light in the room, or, you know, just regular light bulbs or whatever. And in fact, you know, the majority of the videos that are on my YouTube channel I made in the first, you know, year of YouTube, because I was intending to do 365 in a year. I think I ended up recording 300. Well, I don't think I got 600 on my channel yet. So maybe I have, maybe I haven't counted in a while. But basically, you know, half of the videos on my channel were made with that initial setup that I had, you know, a 10-year-old camera, a decent microphone, and, you know, some thoughtful lighting. And so the point about this is that, you know, has all of this stuff actually dramatically improved my my core content. You know, people still watch some of those original videos and find them helpful, you know, those tutorial videos. So it's definitely worth just sort of moderating yourself if you're feeling that oh, I've got to have all of this stuff in place before I start making content, recording videos, recording courses, or whatever, because ultimately it all comes down to the information and the way that it's delivered. And so those are, you know, better investments. And the reason I mention this now as well is because in my newsletter yesterday, which I send out, you can sign up on my website, takeonetech.io. There should be a form at the bottom to sign up to the newsletter. But I do one on Tuesday, the Digital Stage Digest, which is just all general stuff about tech and business and all of this stuff, you know, showing up better on the digital stage. But the one that I sent out yesterday was talking about how really video is the new business suit, which is good because I can't actually fit into most of the business suits that you've seen me wear, perhaps in some of my my promo images. But the point is, though, that for the cost of a business suit now, you can get, you know, really amazing cameras. I haven't officially announced this actually, but I am now officially an OBSBOT brand ambassador. I'll be making a full announcement about that later. But they make a huge range of cameras. So I've got to, before I mention OBSBOT, I've got to just mention that little point, because you know, so you know where I'm coming from. But the cameras that I've got in my studio, I've got an OBSBOT Tail 2, which is behind me. This one over here is an OBSBOT Tiny 2. And then this one over here is an OBSBOT Tiny 2 Lite. And then I've also got some other OBSBOTs that are going to be installed around the studio. But the reason why I was so delighted to be invited to be an ambassador for OBSBOT is because I genuinely use their cameras. And what I love about them is I feel like when you are looking at the range of cameras that they offer, they are coming in at a range of different price points, but they don't seem to be sacrificing, you know, huge amounts of quality. It's not like the $100 one is significantly lower quality image than the one that is, you know, the Tail 2, which is, I think, $1,100 or something like that. What that additional cost is for additional features. So the OBSBOT Tail 2 is really an amazing powerhouse. It's got full-on AI tracking. It's got a zoom lens on it, an optical zoom lens that is, and then there's all the connectivity. You connect it by HDMI, by Ethernet, by USB, and there's all these different things that it can do. So you're basically paying for features rather than quality. The reason why I say this though is because when I started my channel and was on the Canon camera, and then at some point I upgraded to the Sony ZV-E10 with a Sigma lens, a Sigma 30mm lens. That is the camera that you're looking at me on right now. But that camera was, I think, about $600 or $700, and then maybe another $300 for the lens. I can't remember exactly, but let's say ballpark about $1,000 for the camera that I'm using now. Well, you know, now you can get a relatively low-cost camera. So the Tiny 2, so this one is, I think, $150, something like that. Well, the Tiny 2 Lite is, and then you can add in lighting, microphone, and everything. And so now for you know, under $1,000, you can really get a great setup. And so I only mention this because in the newsletter yesterday, I was talking about how, you know, if you're going to invest in a new business suit, you know, often people don't necessarily think twice about that. It's something that they need, and so they would just go ahead and buy it. Whereas when it comes to thinking about, you know, building out a studio, there is this different view, I think, of the investment. Whereas in actual fact, now with, you know, so many things being online, if you're doing anything with online meetings, online education, online coaching, or anything like that, then just investing a little bit in your studio is going to take you, you know, a really long way. And as I say, for, you know, under $1,000, you can make a huge difference in the way that you show up. And the reason why it's important is in the same way that, you know, what are the reasons that, you know, people dress smartly for work? Why have historically over the past decades, you know, people worn business attire, business suits? Well, it's a few things really. It's signaling, you know, respect for the person that you are meeting, that you're dealing with, you know, that you're going to be showing up sort of presentable. It's also sort of signaling authority. That's one of the aspects of it. You know, if somebody turns up, you know, looking sharp, then there's a sort of underlying assumption there that, you know, they are, maybe it's signaling success, maybe it's signaling, you know, power, authority, or whatever it might be. You know, those are signals that come from that. And in the same way, when you show up online, you know, looking good from an audio visual point of view, I'm talking here, you know, image quality. You know, I can't really change this without significantly more investment, but I can certainly change the way that I'm showing up in terms of my background and everything like that, and the quality of the image. Same again with the audio. Well, that's about just having respect for the people that you are showing up and serving, whether that is through coaching, whether you're a, you know, salesperson or whatever you're doing, just having that respect for the other person. It also does signal that, you know, authority as well. What you may well have noticed, if you just sort of stop to analyze your thoughts a little bit, when you go into a Zoom meeting, let's say you're going into a Zoom group session, you're kind of checking out the people that are in all of their little boxes. You know, that's just human nature. We do that. We walk into a room, we kind of, you know, glance around, we analyze, and we do make assumptions, whether we like to admit it or not. We do make assumptions. And when you are showing up to a Zoom session, and, you know, maybe you are just, you know, one Zoom of many, you know, if you're a salesperson, maybe they've been on 10 other sales calls, and then you're getting on, you know, later in the day or whatever. They will be making assumptions as to how you look and sound, you know, actually how you look before you've said anything. And when I say how you look, I'm talking about, you know, the quality of the image. And this is another reason why I think people, you know, want to look sharp and dress sharp for business often, is because it is a kind of reflection of how you show up in other areas. So the reason to be very thorough and you know, look presentable is because people are going to make that assumption that, well, if that's the way you're showing up, then that might also then hopefully be an indicator of how you might show up in your general work and how you show up in everything else you do. So it's a kind of signal of that as well. So there are other reasons around this, but all I'm doing here is just saying that, you know, this is directly equatable to the reason to you know, to look good in, you know, whatever it is we're doing, sales calls or whatever the case may be. And I'll just say again that it's so easy these days with the cost of tech coming down and the quality going up, specifically around cameras. You know, that's the big change that there's been, is around these other cameras. And I mentioned OBSOTs. There are other manufacturers are available, but the point is you can make some really good choices here and purchases that are going to be low cost, but are going to have a huge impact on the way that you show up and the way that you are perceived ultimately. And that is going to have a knock-on effect in terms of the revenue you can generate in your business. I'll be talking about this a little later on this week, in fact, on a webinar series run by Neil Faramond and Martin McKenna, and it's called let me find the link. I should probably have had the link all up ready, shouldn't I? It's called Video is the New Business Card, and actually that's the title they gave it. But yeah, I've said for a long time, video is the new business suit, basically. And I should probably try to find the link for this somewhere, if I can just grab it, because this is a free webinar that's happening this Friday. And so if you are looking to level up your on-screen presence, then this is a great place to start. I've got another thing coming up next week after that as well. Let me just quickly grab this for you, though, because it is a free webinar to attend. I'm just literally going through my newsletter from yesterday to find it. Here we go. I can show you this now. So here we go. It's why video is your new business card. And I've plugged another monitor in, so this is not registering the correct monitor. Let me try this again. Let's see if it's this one. No, as I flick through my monitors, just bear with me a second. Let's try this one. It's going to be the last one that I try. Oh, there we go. It's not the second to last one. So here is a link to the webinar. As I say, it is video is the new business card, or as I'm going to say, the new business suit. And I'll just drop that link into here if you want to register for that. And there's the link in the chat. But also next week, what I'm doing as well is actually a full-on workshop, which is for Ecamm. And one of the things that I started using Ecamm for was, let's have a look. Taylor, it will be recorded, and in actual fact, what it will be is I'm also going to have it go onto my channel as well. So sorry, Taylor's just asking, will that session be recorded? Yeah, so the that webinar will actually be, as well as it's technically on Zoom, but it's also going to be streamed to LinkedIn and to YouTube as well. So yeah, that's it will be recorded. It will be available for that. The timing of it. I'm in Thailand, and Martin and Neil, Martin and Neil are in Scotland and in Portugal. So yeah, it's more of a European time on this one is. But yeah, that should be a great webinar. Oh, and I'll be along with Scott Skybell, and he's got loads and loads of LinkedIn experience, and specifically as a former LinkedIn employee. And he's also a video strategist, talking about how to level up your video, and also how to level up on LinkedIn with video as well. So another great guy. So the format of that is that I'll be doing a sort of half-hour session. Scott will be doing a half-hour session. There'll be a Q&A associated with each one, and then there'll be a bit of a chat between all four of us as well after that. So yeah, you can either register there, or if you aren't able to make it, then it will be available on my channel afterwards as well. So then the other thing, as I say, is the Ecamm One Take workshop, and I've dropped the link in for that. Oh no, I haven't done that yet. Let me do that. And the reason why I originally started using Ecamm and looking to level up my my video presence was actually for recording courses, not the Take One Tech courses, of which I've got about a dozen of those now. It was actually for something completely unrelated, and some people still don't realize, which is quite acceptable, that the reason my channel is called Take One Tech is because all the videos are made in one take with no edits. And in actual fact, it was just a way for me to practice the process. That's why I started the channel, to practice the process of using Ecamm Live to make all of the videos in one take with no edits. And so that's what this workshop's about next week. It's from the 15th to the 18th, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is the sort of main live content. But definitely sign up to this one as well, because there is an additional Zoom session as well on day 4, which will just be an open Q&A. But the purpose of this is that I'm just going to talk you through the entire process that I use to create videos in one take with no edits. By the way, there's one of those suits that I can no longer fit into, but let's move swiftly on. So we're talking about the one take mind shift set. Let me get my words out. The one take mindset shift. And that is this idea of creating things in one take. And I always talk about how, or have historically talked about how the idea of creating the videos in one take with no edits was to get over my perfectionism, because it was taking me hours and hours and hours to create, if not days, to create even a really short video. And I always used to attribute this to perfectionism, which I guess it was, but underlying that really was this desire to appear confident. And I've got a free mini course that you'll be directed to when you sign up to this as well, called the Confidence Switch. And that's basically, you know, flicking that switch in your head to understand that camera confidence on camera is not something that, you know, some hurdle that you've got to overcome necessarily. If you just understand some of the myths around camera confidence and understand some of the little tricks that you can play with yourself to get past that, then there's really, you know, nothing to be afraid of. People talk about fear of the camera, and in actual fact, what you find is confidence is not something that you have to, you know, actively work on necessarily in terms of, oh, I've got to look confident or I've got to be confident. Because funnily enough, the moment that you try to stop performing confidence is the moment that people say, oh, you seem confident. It's a kind of weird paradox. But anyway, so we'll be talking about the sort of mindset, but then also just how to actually set up your studio space or studio equipment. And that is not to say all of the gear that I've got here, literally just your camera, your mic, and then specifically if you're doing any screen shares, how to set those all up in Ecamm, and then how to you know, create your videos in one take with no edits using Ecamm. And the really funny thing about this is all the things that I talk about now with you know, live production for your Zoom meetings, for your workshops, webinars, and all of those other kinds of things. That was a sort of accidental realization for me, that not that I suddenly discovered this. All the Ecamm users already knew this, but once you get into this process of making videos in one take with no edits, and you know, maybe you're using you know, Stream Decks, as I have on my desk over here, if I could select the right camera. So I'm doing all of my camera switching from these devices, the Stream Deck, and I've just got a button that I press which is going to switch to a different camera angle. And once you get into the process of understanding that, oh, you can switch things up, you can go to screen shares. If I want to share what's on my monitor over here, I just press a different button and it's going to bring up the screen share. And so once you get into that flow and have that, build that muscle memory of being able to switch between these easily, then that is live production. People have this idea that live production is, you know, a huge production desk bringing in, you know, multiple different people and all this other thing. And yes, it can be that, but live production can literally be just like, I've got this on screen, now I've got this on screen, now I'm going to flip back to the screen share, now I'm going to flip back to this other camera over here, now I'll flip back to there. All of that is live production. And so once you get into this mindset of, I'm a live producer, suddenly this can then translate directly over into your Zoom meetings, workshops, and webinars, and all of that kind of thing. So although the workshop next week for Ecamm is talking about, you know, one take video production, it's the same muscle memory that you're going to then use. And if you can practice and, you know, maybe start a YouTube channel that's to support your business. It's a great inbound marketing tool, first of all. Take One Tech has grown as a business, has grown organically because of YouTube and started on YouTube. But with an existing business, starting to create videos in this way as a way to practice is a great way to show up authentically. So many people talk about authenticity these days, and you can't help but be authentic if you're not editing yourself. You know, what you see is what you get. So anyway, yeah, that is the one take workshop, or the Ecamm, well, what did we call it? No editing required. The Ecamm one take method, video method. So that's happening next week as well. So definitely sign up for that one. These are both free. So this one and the webinar, both free resources that you can get access to. There's no, you know, no sales in these as such. You know, it's just a case of showing what you can do. And this is something that I'm doing, partnering with Ecamm, and the workshop is something that, the webinar rather, is something that I'm doing, partnering with Neil and Martin as well. So yeah, there's lots of free value in there. So if anybody's got any further questions about the studio space as such, just note that it's all right to you know, look at what other people are doing for maybe some inspiration, or you know, maybe in my case, I'll certainly be sharing some of my mistakes, so you can learn from those as well. But yeah, it's not. Don't be ever put off or daunted by seeing what somebody else is doing with their studio and feeling like you've got to have all those things in place. Because yeah, I wish I had actually taken a picture of a behind the scenes of my original studio space, where, as I say, probably half of my videos were made, which was at the back of my basement. I'd got the basement was not a particularly attractive place. I hadn't done any decorating in there, and so I was just sort of at the back of that. I put a big curtain across it to help sort of block out the any sound or anything like that coming in, and then I've got a huge green screen, which was just actually the way that I made that green screen. It wasn't one of the nice tidy pop-up ones, because it was going to be a sort of semi-permanent feature in there. I actually used PVC plumbing pipe to make a huge big frame and then clipped on the green screen to that. So it was the most sort of hacked together thing altogether. It wasn't necessarily pretty behind the scenes, but with a virtual background, it did the job. And as I say, it helped me get all of that content out. And then I just had an upgrade path of things that I wanted to add in. And then eventually, you know, it became my sort of full-time thing. And then I gave myself the excuse to geek out and go down a lot more paths of investment and yeah, geeking out on tech. The other thing is, you got to bear in mind, as I have a tech YouTube channel, there are companies that will send me things for review, and so I've got a whole room full of other gear and equipment that some of which I incorporate into the setup, and some of which isn't. But that's the other thing, you know, to bear in mind. It you don't necessarily have to go and get all of this stuff. I'm just, I guess, I'm fortunate to have people be sending me things from time to time. So with that said, if there are any further questions, drop them into the chat. I will be getting all of the rest of the lighting and things like that set up, I would imagine, by next week for next week's live stream. And then yeah, I've got as I say, busy week. I should probably also mention, if you do want to get up to speed with Ecamm, then I do have my Ecamm Live Accelerator course coming up as well. This is not meant to be just blatant promotion of everything, but since I am doing it, I probably should mention it. If you are really serious about leveling up your process with Ecamm Live and understanding more about it, then there is the Ecamm Live Accelerator. That is 2 weeks, and that is the last week in July and first week in August. And this is going to be split basically into two halves, 2 weeks. So week 1 is all about foundations. Monday, setting up Ecamm, so understanding just the basics of how to get it set up, how to bring in your cameras, talking about designing your production, how to make it you know, unique for your brand, and how to have it have a consistent look. Then Wednesday, we'll be talking about different ways that you can use screen sharing to, you know, bring in your content. Thursday is all about delivering presentations, so how to integrate presentation software, be that some of the new AI tools like Gamma.app, which is a great AI presentation software, or something like Keynote, PowerPoint, but how to integrate that so that you can have these two core components. Some people talk about using Ecamm for presentations. I never use Ecamm itself as the presentation tool. Ecamm is, for me, live production. Presentations I do in presentation software. Although technically you can have, you know, images, text overlays and shapes and all this sort of stuff in Ecamm, for me, it's not the right environment to be doing that in. I keep those separate. So I'll be talking about how to use Ecamm for presentations combined with presentation software. And then Friday, we'll be talking about how to simplify your production using Stream Deck and just have everything push button. It really becomes your mission control to control everything from Ecamm to your presentation software. And yeah, you can have your own little mission control on your desk, and you only need one Stream Deck. You don't need multiple, as I've gone down that route. But so that is the foundations of Ecamm on week 1, and by the end of that, you'll have, you know, your production set up basically. Now, this is where we can then move on to the integration, the implementation and use cases, because as I mentioned, you know, you might be recording with Ecamm, which is what we're talking about on day 1. But if you've got the muscle memory to use this, then also it's the exact same process for live streaming. So we'll be talking about some different nuances related to live streaming. We're talking about then how to integrate this with your meetings, whether it is with Zoom, Teams, or any other platform. And then on Thursday, we'll talk about using Ecamm for full-on events. So you may be aware that earlier on this year, I ran the Digital Stage Summit, which was a 3-day event with 33 speakers, 33 hours of content, actually more speakers than that because some of them were the groups, but we had 33 hours of sessions, and it was all produced live using Ecamm with some Stream Decks from my little studio. So that's what we're talking about on Thursday, is using Ecamm for events. And then Friday will be on, you know, finally overcoming any final barriers and, you know, for execution, or getting over the any sticking points that you might have with actually launching your content, your course, your event, or whatever it is. So that is 2 weeks, and this is a paid course, unlike the other two things which were completely free. This is a paid course. It's $197, but you get access to the full 2 weeks. There's 2 sessions every day, so there'll be one in a time that suits you. I'm doing them kind of almost 12 hours apart. So you're welcome to come to one or both of those. And then also you'll get lifetime access to the Digital Stage Network, which is the community space that we've got. And that also gives you access, by the way, to our backstage for all of these live streams. So you can find a link to that down in the description as well, or in the chat. So with that little final bit of self-promotion out of the way, Mark, hey, great to see you as well. Studio space, light versus dark background. Most are using darker with RGB highlights and lighter, harder to light. Thoughts on how to make a light version effective? There are people who do the light version, and I feel that I like the contrast between if you've got something dark in the background, then you kind of like pop out from it more. But there are people who do just a general much lighter feel very well. And as long as you've got adequate lighting on yourself and you've got some separation in the background, so that maybe thinking about like the tones that you've got on the wall, it can still look really great to have a really well lit background as well. But there's just making sure that there is that contrast with you. So, I've been in Thailand for about 20 years, and people always say, why am I not more tanned? Well, I don't really do tanned. I'm either like pasty white or bright red. It's one of the two, and there's not much in between. If I spend too much time out in the sun, it just switches over to tomato. so having it like a really white background probably wouldn't suit me here. So having something with this color on is a little bit better. But I like the aesthetic of it. It also allows me to sort of change it up, although I don't tend to change it too much these days. But I did used to change the color depending on what I was doing. I used to have for all of my courses, there would be a different sort of theme to the course, a different vibe going on. But now it does tend to stay pretty much the same. But yeah, I just like the fact that it does mean that you it's easier to sort of pop out because you want to be the focus rather than the background. But it's just a personal preference, really. As I say, there's plenty of people who do light backgrounds really well. Let me just think of somebody who has a light background. Let's see. Graham Cochran. He's a guy that does Kajabi tutorials. Let me just find his, because he's just got a really nice aesthetic. I mean, there's loads of examples of these, so it could be anybody, but it's just down to personal preference ultimately at the end of the day. Let's have a look. He's just somebody that springs to mind. Let me just play his thing. I suppose he's got a bit of a darker vibe going on here, but basically there's no color. So let me just bring this up. So this is Graham Cochran. I think I've got a feeling he's changed this recently, but you can see that he's just there's no YouTube purple, pink or purple lighting going on. It's just his background. I'm sure in some of them he's got a more lighter thing going on. Maybe not recently, but yeah, there's lots of ways that you can look at this, and it's just down to, as I say, personal preference at the end of the day. So this is just my personal preference, and whichever you prefer. The one thing to make sure though is you are in control of it, and that's where I talked about how I sort of blocked out my light. So the reason why I've got this here is to completely block out the light. And that's because if you've got any sort of natural light coming in, then it could completely sort of screw up if it goes light and dark. So, whoops, it's probably a bit too close to my head there. But yeah, that's why I wanted to be in control of it. So, if you are doing light, it could be natural light, but also it could be that, you simulate natural light as well. So that would be another way to go with that. So yeah. Where are we up to now? Hey, Kirk, great to see you here as well. That Alec asterisk, it looks like there should be a little note somewhere down at the bottom that says, says something else associated with it. Yeah, it's another moment though with a great studio. If ever you want to take a look at Kirk stuff, always a good studio. I love your different angles as well that you've got. And in fact, so I've got two here. I'm still figuring out positioning of them and things like that. But yeah, I always like the way that you've got a couple of nice different angles on your studio as well, and sort of integrate those like into your content. So you just I'm doing it at the moment to sort of flick between showing people things, but I do need to set something up so that it's just sort of automatically flicking between them. It just adds a nice little bit of interest, and you always do that so well, Kirk. Well, with that said, we're coming up to the top of the hour now. If anybody's got any questions after the fact, you are always welcome to drop them into the comments as well. I'm going to try and get back on top of all of my my work and productivity now that I'm finally settled or getting settled in a new space, and that includes keeping up with comments and things like that, because I feel like I've been a little bit lax on that recently. So hoping to get back to that. Thanks, Kirk. I'm glad you like it, and yeah, the subtle camera changes, if done right, work really well. Well, with that said, thank you so much for stopping in. I'm glad you enjoyed the tour. And as I say, any questions, let me know, and feel free to reach out via the website as well, takeonetech.io. And I'll leave it there, but I'll see you all next week, if not before, in one of those webinars or in the Ecamm Live workshop. Take care. See you all soon. Have a wonderful day.